We're live, right? Trying to connect. What? 1 second. You go live again. 1 second. The fruit. If you're watching on my personal page, please say hi, so we can fruit of the land and power of the mind. Be in the Bible with Rabbi Yekidem done. I don't know if this mic is working or not. Hello, Shalom Miyakel. Hello, Art. Good evening, Mazel Tov Ravit. Thank you all. If you're watching on Chabad.org, I don't know if you hear a difference in the audio because I have this mic. I don't know if it's connected or not, so we'll see. Okay. Ready, my friends? Showtime. If you're watching a Chabad, just tell me and let me know if you hear my sound better because I'm half hoarse. I should have a microphone on, but I don't see that it's connected, so I don't know if actually tell me if you hear it better or worse, like this, with the mic, without the mic. Let me know. I didn't. The daughter says that it's connected. I don't see that it's connected, so I don't know. Okay. So, my friends, good evening. If you're watching, and say hi so we can see who's with us. Oh, thank you. Baruch Hashem. Michelle's watching. We got a crowd here in the room. Thank God for that. Okay. Tonight's learning, oopsies, as always, is in the memory of Yitzchak Tzvi ben Yosef. His neshama should have an elevation in Gan Eden. I don't know if you hear us. Brandon, how are you? Hello, Mary. What are you watching? You're going to be watching an amazing class, God willing, on the fruit of the land of Israel. Okay, hello. Good evening, Joseph. Good evening, Maria. Good evening, Mary, which is different than Maria. Good evening, Cheryl. Andrea hears us. Baruch Hashem. If you're watching on my page, you can hear me. The Yeti mic is plugged in. I'm trying to do something for the Chabad.org. Lori, let me know how the audio is for you. Okay. So, my friends, good evening. We are going to talk about the story of the spies. Now, the story of this, the story of the spies? No. Okay. Well, no, Lech Lecha is a different journey. Lech Lecha is a journey of Avraham to the land of Israel. This week's Torah reading is a very important and very sad story of the Jewish people. I heard a rabbi describe it as this is one of those times when the Jews snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, the Jews were literally about to complete the entire story of the Exodus. We left Egypt with a very, very clear mission, which was to receive the Torah and then go to the Promised Land. That was the plan. And the Jews got pretty close. We got the Torah. We had a few hiccups along the way with the golden calf and a few other stories. But eventually, okay, we're heading to the Promised Land. We're 11 days away. God says we're going to go fast. I want to get you there. And they come to the border of the land. And then some very smart Jews had an idea that maybe before we go into the land, we should send spies to scout out the land and to see exactly what's going on over here. And originally, Moshe was a little bit nervous about sending these spies, but he felt kind of trapped. Moshe felt, good evening, those that are watching, good evening, Art, I'm glad you hear me loud and clear. Thank you, Marie, for the blessings. Thank you. So Moshe felt trapped because he couldn't tell the Jews, I'm not going to send spies, because then it would seem like he was trying to hide something, right? So he had to kind of give in, But he thought that if he says, okay, we'll send spies, they would say, oh, if you're willing to do it, we don't need to do it anymore. Sometimes when you're very eager, yeah, sure, you can test you want to buy my car? Yeah, sure. Here's the keys, go for a drive, take it on the highway. So then when I see you're so open, I'm less suspicious. I'm more trusting that the car drives fine. But I don't want to get too into these details. The fact is that God tells Moshe, if you want to send spies, shlach lecha. Shlach lecha. Yeah. Shlach, living in lech. Shlach lecha means you can send them on your own volition, on your own advice. You want to send them? Go ahead. I won't stop you. And this could actually be a whole class of its own. How God doesn't stop us from making mistakes and choosing paths that don't always work out the best for us. But again, regardless, Moshe chooses 12 illustrious great men. These 12 men are the leaders of the 12 tribes. In fact, one prince or one leader, one representative of each tribe is chosen. So obviously they were respected leaders, the creme de la creme, the who's who of the Jewish community, one from each of the 12 tribes, chosen to be the messengers of Moshe to go and scout out the land. And as Ravit is asking, if not for the spies, at this point in the story, yes, Moshe would have been allowed to go into the land of Israel. Again, how that fits to what God's ultimate plan is not relevant. But yeah, Moshe would have gone to the land of Israel at this point in the story. So the spies go off. Now, before Moshe sends the spies, he gives them a very clear mission statement. He makes it very clear to them what it is that he wants them to do. It's several verses long, but what I'm going to focus on is just one verse. And before I start sharing, because I have a challenge when I prepared this class. I don't want to just do like an old class that I've already done or something that you all know. I want to find something unique, a different angle, a different perspective to the story. And the perspective of tonight's conversation is going to be specifically the fruit of the land of Israel. Specifically the fruit. And this is an angle I've never seen anyone give a class on. I've never really thought of it from this perspective. And before we get to the verses, and on to my dear friend Steve, a few corny jokes about fruit, because at 7:30 I Googled jokes. I don't know any fruit jokes, actually. I'm sure I did if I thought about it, but I just Googled it, and all I got was like a lot of very, very corny jokes, like, why did the grapes stop in the middle of the road? Because they ran out of juice. And what do you get when you throw a salad out the window? Squash. And why did the tomato blush? Because she saw the salad dressing. Otherwise, just stop. Why did the tomato go out with a prune? Because he couldn't find the date. Why aren't bananas ever lonely? Because they hang out in bunches. Why were the apple and orange all alone? Because the banana split. And last one. What key do you use to open the banana? A monkey. Okay, anyway. I'm glad you guys liked it. Anyway, so we're going to talk specifically about the fruit of the land of Israel. So with that corny introduction, I would call it a fruity introduction, maybe with that corny introduction, I want to read one verse of the 3 verses where Moshe tells them, I wanted to see what is the land, are the cities fortified, are they walled cities, are they open cities, are the people strong? And then he says to them as follows, Umaha Aretz, what is the soil like? Is it fat or is it lean? I mean, this is almost an agricultural question. Aside for the military situation in the land and the people, what is the soil like? Is it good? Is it bad? Are there trees in it or not? V'hischazaktem, be strong, ulekachtem, and take mepri haaretz, from the fruit of the land. And in fact, at that time, it was the season when the first grapes began to ripen. They actually went right around now, by the way. Now is the season of the grapes. They went in, actually, the beginning of the month of Sivan. This, like right now, where we are now, is exactly while the spies were in the land of Israel. They returned on the 17th of Tammuz. And this is the time when the grapes are ripening. And Moshe says to be strong, take from the fruit of the land. Now, by the way, as I'm reading this verse, a little light bulb went off in my head. Because Moshe, so to say, like every good lawyer, he asks a question he already knows the answer to. He asks a question in the verse. What's the question he asks in the verse? He asks about the soil. What else does he ask? Are there any trees in the land or not? And what are the very next words? be courageous. V'his chazaktem means like be chazak, be strong, and take from the fruit of the land to bring back. So he knows the answer. It's like, is there going to be any trees? And of course, there's trees. And that's why we can make the assumption that when he asks, what is the soil of the land like? Is it a rich land or is it a lean? Is it not such a wealthy, not wealthy, is it not such a fertile land? Obviously, Moshe knows the answer to these questions. So why does Moshe want them to answer and to give back a report on the fruit of the land and on the soil? Not a test. Why do you think? Why would Moshe care about the soil? Okay, he gave them a few tasks. You're right. The Jews are obviously going to be planting. The Jews were an agricultural or agrarian society. But what was the reason why Moshe was sending spies to begin with? Is Moshe worried about the land of Israel? No, the people are worried. Very good. So the objective of the spies is for what objective? Very good. To reassure the nervous Jews that are worried, is this a good land? Is it worth it? Remember, the Jews are very comfortable in the desert. Life is good in the desert. They have the bread from the heaven in the desert. They have the well of Miriam in the desert. So the whole objective of the spies is not to figure out how to conquer the land. That will be the spies of Joshua, and we're not going to talk about that right now. Not tonight, right? Although I thought about it. The whole objective of sending spies is for one reason: to get the Jews excited about the land that God had promised them. The Jews are not excited. That's why they're saying, hold on, before we go, let's first do some homework. When do you research a product? When you're not sure if you want it or not, right? Once you decided you're getting it, you don't need to still do research. It's when you're not sure if you want that you do research. So the fact that the Jews are in this situation where they're asking, should we go, should we not go? They're not excited. So Moshe is trying to get them excited. So remember this, the whole objective of Moshe telling them of them going to the land in general, which is why it is that they should make the Jews excited about the land, which is why God didn't want to send spies. Because God says, I already promised you it's a land flowing with milk and honey. Exactly. God already told us explicitly the land of Israel is a land flowing with milk and honey. It's a good land. So God, from God's perspective, you're sending spies, you don't believe me? I promised you it's a good land. But the Jews are worried. So Moshe is trying to make the Jews feel better. So he's saying, okay, we'll send spies. You'll see that it's good. So he's telling the spies, don't just tell me about the fortified cities and the armies and how big it is and how strong they are. I want you to bring back a report of how rich the soil is, how beautiful the fruits of the land are, how good of a land this is, and how prosperous we, the Jews, could be if we dwell in this land. That's the mission, right? Clear, yes? Okay. So what happened? Oh boy, so we're getting a lot of stuff on my Facebook feed over here. Okay, we're going to ignore all the haters. We'll ignore them all. That's fine. Yeah. So, and Shalom Stephanie. So the spies go into the land. What happens? Let's continue reading the story. We'll skip just a few verses and then we'll continue. Verse number 23. They came to the valley of Eshcol, and there they cut a branch with a single cluster of grapes. Okay, so they're doing what Moshe says. They come to this valley and they cut a branch. They carried it on the pole between two people. I'll explain in a second what two people means. And they also took some pomegranates and figs. That place was named the Valley of Eshcol because of the cluster that the Israelites cut down over there. Now, what do you mean that they cut down and they carried it with two? Asks Rashi, if you skip ahead to the Rashi, from when it says that they carried it in the plural on the pole. How many people is the minimum to carry a pole? Two. Right? If you put something onto a pole, that's two people carrying the pole. So that's obvious. So what does between two tell us? The answer is with two poles. How was it done? 8 of them took a cluster of grapes, meaning there's 2 poles with 2 people on each end of each pole. So that's 8. So you have 8 people carrying these poles. One is carrying a fig that's so big, you need a whole person just to carry one single fig. One with 2 hands is carrying a pomegranate. That's how big the pomegranate was. And Joshua, that's 10. And Joshua, for how many spies went? 12. So 8 are carrying this one massive cluster of grapes that's so big, you need 2 poles just to hold one cluster of grapes. And 8 men, 2 on each side, carrying the weight of this cluster. You have one guy just carrying 1 fig, one guy carrying a pomegranate, and Yeshua and Caleb did not carry anything. Why not? For the intention of the others was to present a slanderous report. Namely, just as its fruit is extraordinary, so too are its people extraordinary. So Caleb and Yeshua, who do not intend to give a negative report about the land of Israel, and they see that why are these other spies carrying the fruit? Because they want to give a negative report. So they right away say, we're not getting involved. We're not going to be part of bringing back fruit that will be used as a negative report about the land of Israel. We refuse to carry the fruit. And I see, okay, fine. Fascinating, right?
It's very interesting.
Very interesting.
Ignore those people.
Ignore which people? Oh, on the Facebook? That's okay. They have nothing about what I'm saying. They're talking about the Israel and the USS or whatever. Yeah, nothing. Okay. So anyway, this is the story. This is a very famous Rashi, famous story. They come back with these grapes. Now, just for Karen, anyone else that's watching doesn't know the end of the story. When they come back and they show these very, very big grapes, they show how terrible the land is, how the people in the land are giants. And last year we did a very interesting class on the giants and the history of the giants and where they came from called Nephilim. It's a very, very interesting class. You can look back and find it. But anyway, the fact is they are giants. The people became very, very afraid. They said, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to? And what happened? They started to cry. And that night that they cried was Tisha B'Av, was a night that God said, now you're crying for no reason. I'm going to give you a reason to cry. And all of the mourning and all of the terrible calamities that would befall the Jewish people, including the destruction of the first temple and the destruction of the second temple and the expulsion of the Jews from Spain and the expulsion of Jews from Gush Katif, which is the Hebrew name for Gaza, and many other calamities that took place with the Jewish people, all happened at this time of Tisha B'Av. Anyway, the point is they bring back the fruit. The people become afraid, seeing how big and mighty the fruit are, and they become afraid. Okay. Today, I was learning and I discovered a medrash. A medrash is rabbinic teachings, the same rabbis that wrote the Talmud in Sota that says that there was 10 men carrying this fruit, excluding Yoshua and Kalev, who did not want to be part of the bringing of the fruit. The medrash says the exact opposite. Look at this medrash. It's a very interesting medrash. Let me share my screen again. This is from Bamidbar Rabbah, the medrash on this very same verse that we just read a second ago. The medrash says that when they came to the Eshkol ravine, or the valley of Eshkol, it says they did not wish to take from the fruits of the land of Israel. Had it not been for Kalev, Kalev is one of the 2 spies that remained loyal to Moses, who drew his sword. He ran before them, and he said to them, if you do not take, either you will kill me, or I will kill you. Can you imagine? He pulled out a sword. So if you're going to leave this valley without taking grapes with you, we're going to fight to the death. And either you'll kill me or I'll kill you, but one of us will die if we leave this valley without the grapes. And had not been for Kalev, they would not have taken the grapes. And therefore Moses, in appreciation for Kalev's loyalty to the mission of bringing back the grapes, gave an oath saying that the land on which your foot trod will be an inheritance for you. Indeed, in the book of Joshua, we find that the city of Hebron, which is a city that Kalev went to, became a permanent ancestral property or inheritance of the family of Kalev for his loyalty to Moses during this trip. But the fact is, this is an amazing contradiction. The way my entire life, the way I've always known the story, is that the spies took these huge fruit for the explicit intention of using them to show how dangerous and how scary the land of Israel is. And therefore, when the Jews would see how big these fruit are, they'd say, "Oy vey, the people are too powerful, they're too mighty. We can't overcome them," and they would be afraid to go into the land of Israel. Which is why the Gemara tells us, and Rashi quotes, that Kalev and Yoshua, who did not want to scare the people, did not carry the fruits. That's what I've understood my whole life. And today I see is very interesting measures, which says that not only did Kalev force the spies to take them, he was rewarded for that. Moshe gives him a reward. Moshe makes an oath of appreciation to Kalev for forcing the other spies to bring the fruit. It's interesting. And as I started doing more research on this, I realized, as I already pointed out to you earlier, that this taking of the fruit is an explicit command of Moshe to the spies, as we already pointed out. It's not just something that the spies were traveling, which is kind of how I kind of thought. The spies were traveling, came upon this unbelievably huge cluster of grapes, and they said, "Oh, wow, look at these big grapes. Let's take them back to show the Jews just how mighty and how massive are the giants living in this land." That's not what happened. From the very beginning, a clear part of the mission statement and the itinerary of this 12 spies and their scouting mission was to bring back fruit. Which would be like, why would they want to bring it back? This was the mission. And I have to tell you, someone's asking about videos about the giants being Nephilim. The Nephilim were giants. And Nephilim is, in Hebrew, means they fallen ones. They were from angels that fell from the heavens. They were giants. They were literal giants, huge, mammoth creatures that made the Jews feel like grasshoppers. They were huge compared to them. The fruit that they were eating was so big that, as we said, needed 8 people just carry a cluster. And if you search my name and type the word Nephilim, you'll find a whole class on this topic. Anyway, so there's a real contradiction here. Yeah. And I have to tell you that I was looking a little bit in the commentaries today, and I didn't see anyone that addresses this contradiction. Most of the commentaries explain that the spies, that like the Talmud says, that Kalev and Yeshua did not bring back the fruit because it was going to be used as slander against the Jewish people, against the land of Israel, and they refused to be part of the slander of the land of Israel, which is right in the text of the Torah. If you keep on reading, etc., that's exactly what happened. The spies slandered the land of Israel, and they used these fruit, these grapes, and this date, and this fig, the pomegranate, as the show and tell by which they slandered the land of Israel. But then what was Moshe's intention when he gave them the command to bring the fruit? And why did Kalev force them to do it? The Medrash says that if Kalev didn't force them by risking his life and pulling out a sword and saying, either you kill me or I'll kill you, but we're not leaving here without the grapes. If they were going to use it for show and tell against the land of Israel, why did Kalev insist on it? Okay. It's a very good question. And for half of today, I was deeply perturbed by this question. I was, just so you know, I was perturbed. Then I was listening to another class, I was listening, and I heard something else also on these verses. And it gave me an idea. And then actually, when I was by supper, we were talking with my wife and my kids, and I came to my wife, help me. I have an understanding, I think it's my own idea. Actually, my wife's really. But I think it's very true and it's very simple. It's not like a complicated, Talmudic idea. It's a tremendous lesson. By way of introduction, let's continue reading what happens when they come back with these fruit, okay? So we told you, we read already the verse 23, 24, they cut the fruit, they're carrying it back, and Joshua and Kalev are not carrying it back. Now let's go to verse 25. I'm just continuing the story in the text, okay? Verse 25, at the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. I'm not sure at what point they cut it, but yeah, they carried it with them for a while. I'm not sure. Maybe they left it and took it on the way back. I mean, they didn't cut this down on the first day of the 40 days. So I don't know what number day it was, but on the way back, they had a locker somewhere. They stored it. A little refrigerator. But it was at the end of 40 days. They returned back from scouting the land. They went. Here's the Hebrew. Vayelchu. I should have highlighted the Hebrew too, so you'll see it. Vayelchu means they went. Vayavo, and they came to Moshe and to Aaron and to all of the congregation of the sons of Israel in the Kadesh, in Midbar Paran, in the wilderness of Paran, and they made their report to them and to the whole community. Vayarum esprit haaretz, and they showed them the fruit of the land. They told them and they said, we came to the land that you sent us to see. And indeed, as you said correctly, it is a land flowing with milk and honey. And this is its fruit. So again, we see, first of all, the fruit are a very integral part of the story. And you can read the story for many, many years, as I did, and never pay attention to the fruit. There's a bigger picture. We're going to focus on these fruit. But so they're very clearly making the fruit an important part of their testimony, of their report. We came to the land. Notice, they don't say anything about the other things that Moshe asked them to scout out. And we didn't read it inside. There were several verses. They don't mention if the cities are fortified. They come in. Indeed, the first thing they respond, the last thing Moshe said, because the fortified cities is not the point. The point is, you wanted us to excite the people about going into the land of Israel. We're doing the opposite. I want you to know that even though it is a land flowing with milk and honey, it's a land that produces giants. In fact, the verses continue. I just didn't put it because the page was running out of space, but it continues. And those people are giants and we won't be able to conquer it. And we are doomed to die. And all the negativity and the slander that they give about the land of Israel continues in the next few verses, based upon them showing the fruit of the land and showing how the land is too huge, the people are too massive, they're too powerful, they're too mighty. We will never be able to conquer this land. So what I want to ask you is what Rashi says. If you paid it, I highlighted and I bolded the words, and I should have done it in the Hebrew too, but the verse says, Vayelchu, Vayavo, which means they come back, right? Vayelchu, and they went to Moses. Vayavo, and they came. So Rashi asks a simple question. What does it mean they went and they came? What is meant by they went? It says already that they returned from, this verse before says, at the end of 40 days, they returned from scouting the land. So they already returned. So what do you mean they went? Just say they came. So Rashi says, based on the Gemara in Saita, it's a very, very powerful statement, a very powerful statement. When the Torah repeats again that they went after the verse before it said that they returned from the land, is telling you that we want to compare. The Bible is comparing their going with their coming. Just as when they came back, when they returned with evil intent. So too when they left on their departure, it was also with evil intent. From the get-go, they didn't want to go. That's correct. And we see this on this repetition of the word that they went and they came immediately after the verse told us that they returned from where they had gone to. So the fact that the Torah repeats again that they went next to the word that they came is telling you just like they came back, planning on discouraging the Jews and disillusioning the Jews that they should not want to go to the land of Israel. That was also their intention when they left. They left with the intention, that they're going to convince the Jews not to go into the land of Israel. Moses didn't see. That's a very good question. Now, there were other warning signs. God told Moses, I don't think it's a good idea. That's why I said Moses was kind of trapped. Moses didn't feel that he could tell the Jews no. Sometimes even when you're in a leadership position, people demand something, even though you don't think it's a good idea, you got to sort of say, satisfy. That's what the people of the community want, right? The board is demanding, so the rabbi's got to do it. That's what happened. The Jews were demanding, the tribes were demanding. So Moses, although he knew this was a bad idea, and it was based on a lack of trust in God, but he kind of felt he had no choice. He felt like he had no choice. So here is something very interesting. It's not that, if you hear the story, you always think, what happened? Moses says to the spies, go check out the land of Israel. Tell me if it's a good land or not a good land, right? So the spies go, and on the way, they see these giants. They also saw people dying all the time. God did a favor for the spies and got a pandemic in the land of Israel at the time of the spies were there. So every day they're going city after city, funeral after funeral, funerals. And they say it's a land. They say there's a verse. It's a land that consumes its inhabitants because wherever we go, we see people dying, people being buried, which is part of God's way of making the people so busy with the funerals that they wouldn't notice 12 spies that are, walking around with this massive pomegranate and this thing of grapes. So they were busy with the funerals. But the point is, it's not like that. Okay, they see people are dying. They see that there's giants. They see that there might be fortified cities. So they become afraid and they come back and say, let's not go to the land. That's not what happened. Before they ever left on their mission, when Moshe sent them, they said, this is not a good idea. We're not going to be successful in the land of Israel. Our lives are much better in the desert. No, the desert. We don't want to go to Israel. We are not going to come back with a good report. Our plan is to come back and convince the Jews that we should stay where we are. And by the way, today, many scientists and many reports are like that, unfortunately, where there's already the scientists or the researchers that are doing a project already have their preconceived conclusion, and they're only using data to fit whatever conclusion it is that they want to come to. And this is not a political statement. This is a reality, and it's on anyway. You want to prove whatever it is that. So you have your conclusion, and now you pick just the years of the temperature or this or whatever that I want to show for my conclusion, right? It's any data. My mother got a PhD in education. She said there was a whole class in statistics, and there's nothing that you can't skew. You can always choose what data to select, what data to ignore, what data, right? You're shaking your head. That's the way it works. So many medical papers and research papers and scientific papers are all like that. There's already a conclusion. We already have our thesis. Not every. I said many. 100%, not all. 100%. There are people of course, there are people that are searching for truth, that have open minds, and that are looking to see real answers. 100%. But many studies that are funded, and some of it's because of money. So let's say you have sugar companies that are funding studies to show you that sugar is good for you. So you have to research the researchers, and to research who's funding the study and what the agenda of the study is. My point, I don't want to get distracted on this topic. My point is just that before the spies went it's not a new phenomenon. The idea that you have a researcher that has a preset conclusion before he begins his study didn't begin 20 years ago, whatever. The spies were like that. The spies in the Bible already had a set conclusion. And therefore, when they went into the land of Israel, they weren't going open-minded, let's see what we find and let's see what we report back. They already went in. The Torah is telling us by repeating the word vayelchu vayavo that they went and then they came. The Torah is telling you just like they came back with a negative report. They already entered the land 40 days earlier. They already had a plan to scare the Jews away. Now, why would they want to scare the Jews away? Because life was great in the desert. In the desert, they had everything they needed. They had food from the heavens. They had the traveling well of Miriam that gave them all water. They were living sheltered in clouds of glory, where their clothes were washed for them, where no enemy could attack them, where no animal could attack them. They were living in a physically perfect cocoon of all your needs taken care for. They're living in a hotel. Everything, like living in a hotel, your food is given to you, your clothes are washed for you, everything. Spiritually, the Jews were on the best level possible. They're all living in very close proximity to the temple, to the Mishkan. They're all living surrounded with the priests.
How spiritual could we be if we couldn't trust God?
Well, so it didn't come from a trust. Good question. Good point. Good, valid point. Well taken. But in the perspective of the spies' minds, from their perspective, they say, what do we need to go into the land of Israel for and start fighting with all these, fighting to conquer the land and all that? Let's just stay in the land of Israel. Let's just stay in the desert. We have no enemies. The clouds of glory protect us. We have no mortgage payments. We don't have to work and be farmers. We don't have to build barns. We don't have to plow the earth. We don't have to sell the produce. Bread comes from heaven every single day. What else do we need? Spiritually, what do they do all day? They sat and learned Torah from Moshe. They weren't working. When the Jews would enter the land of Israel and they'd have to become farmers and and have barns and be shoemakers and make whatever, how much time would the Jews have to sit and learn Torah? Not so much time. Now in the desert, they had no distractions. It's like being in the yeshiva, right? In yeshiva, food are provided, meals are provided. You don't have to worry about anything else. All you do all day is sit and study. It's a great life. So the spies felt that both physically and spiritually, the Jews are much better off in the desert. That's a positive spin on this, the Rebbe's perspective on this. But the fact is, the spies already had a plan. We're not entering the land. We don't want it. We don't need it. We're going to convince the Jews it's not good for us, and we're going to stay in the desert.
So does that mean the Jews themselves, the lower, not the princes, the spies, did they really feel that way? Or it was just really these spies and princes, they wanted to keep it?
These spies, they wanted to keep it that way.
Everybody else was not like that.
The Jews were listening to the leaders. These spies were the leaders. They were the think tanks. They were the thought leaders of the community. And they were worried for the rest of the community and said, I'm going to let you all enter the land of Israel. Now you're all living, let's say, I'm the prince, right? You're all living in tents, all kind of, very close together, under my guidance and direction and inspiration. And now we're going to go into the land of Israel. What will happen? You're going to move there. You're going to go there. You're going to be busy with that. And you're going to be busy with, you're going to open your own company. And you're going to be, that's it. And the fun. Correct. It could be like a mother saying, I don't want my kid to go to college. Right? Because now she's young, or they're living home, they're listening to me, they're going to go away. They're going to find their own boyfriend, their own girlfriend, their own thoughts about life, their own path in life, their own career, and you become like an afterthought. So the spies didn't want to go. They didn't want to go. So they had in their mind a preconceived plan that we will not have a good report. Once you understand that, now you can understand. Now here is my own theory, but I think that it's a very, very obvious and simple. Why Moshe told the spies to bring fruit. Why Kalev insisted they bring fruit. And then why Kalev changed his mind and said, I'm not carrying the fruit. Because in the mind of Moshe, if you want to inspire the Jewish people to want to enter the land of Israel, the best thing is show and tell, bring them the fruit of the land. Right? It's one thing if I tell you the land is beautiful. It's another thing if I come and bring you the fruit, right? I said, that restaurant was a really good restaurant. Okay. Now I come bring you a really good dinner. Robert said, I like that idea, right? Yeah. If I come and I bring you food, I bring you some sample things. Oh, now, okay, that was really good. Let me go. So in the mind of Moshe, the best way to excite the Jews about entering the land of Israel is bring back the fruit. Show them how delicious, how luscious, how good the fruit is. Which is why in the explicit command of Moshe to the spies, he tells them, bring back fruit. Show that it's a rich land, a fat land, a prosperous land. And that's why when they come to this valley of Eshkol and they see these huge clusters of grape that are so big, they need 8 people to carry one cluster. The other spies say, we're not bringing this. And Kalev says, oh, look at how big these clusters are. Beautiful. Guys, we must bring this. And he pulls out a sword and says, if you don't take it, we're not going anywhere. Either I die or you die. But we're going to do the mission that Moshe gave us, and we're going to bring back the fruit. And you know what happened then? This is my conjecture, but this is, I'm very sure this makes sense. The spies start cutting it down, and they're talking amongst themselves. And they start saying, wow, look at these big things. We're going to tell the Jews how dangerous this land is. This is so heavy, they're probably kvetching and krechzing. Oh, it's so heavy, right? We're going to come back and tell the Jews, it's a great idea we're taking this cluster. This is the ultimate proof of why the land is too big for us to conquer. The inhabitants of the land are too strong for us to conquer. And all of a sudden, Kalev hears them, and he hears how they're using the same fruit that he thought was going to show how beautiful the land is. And now he realizes that the exact opposite is going to happen. The spies are going to use this exact same fruit to slander the land and to scare the people away from trying to enter the land. And Kalev says, forget it. Abort the mission. Abort. I'm not doing this. This is not going to work. This is going to backfire against the whole purpose. I mean, what was the job of Moshe? The command of Moshe was to carry fruit, or the command of Moshe really was to make the people excited about the land, right? The fruit was only a means, a tool, a show and tell to make people excited. Once Kalev realized that this same fruit that he thought would make the people excited about the land is actually going to make the people afraid of the land, he backed away, and that's why him and Joshua did not involve themselves actually carrying the fruit. That's, I think it's a beautiful explanation. Yeah, I didn't see it anyway. I think it makes perfect sense.
There's one problem.
One problem. Uh-oh. Good evening, Jessica. Yeah.
He would have disobeyed Moshe if he said, now put down the fruit or I will kill you by sword. I changed my mind.
Yeah. I guess at some point they changed. I don't know if it happened like immediately that minute that they said, because I wasn't there. I'm not reading a commentary, but I don't think that at the moment they cut down the fruit, they said, okay, this is going to be used to slander the land. But at some point, over the 40 days, they say at some point, the narrative changed, and they were looking at this fruit. No longer were they seeing the fruit as a beautiful testament to the the richness of the land, but they were seeing it as a testament to the danger of the land. And that's at some point we're called to say, I'm not helping, I'm not being involved with this. So what's the message for us? What's the message for us? Obviously, the fruit itself is not good or bad. Is it? Let me ask you a question. So, are the actual cluster of grapes, the actual pomegranate, the actual fig, are those fruits part of the slander? Are they negative? Are they positive? Are they good? Are they bad? Exactly. It's exactly. It's how you decide to look at it. The cluster of grapes is not bad. It's not good. The cluster of grapes is a show and tell of the land. But how do you see these grapes? Depends what glasses you're wearing. Depends what you want to see. That's what you're going to see. So if you're Kalev and you want to see the beauty of the land because God told you it's a beautiful land and there's a land flowing with milk and honey, and you see these unbelievably rich, luscious, massive fruits, you say, wow, what a beautiful testament to the power of God's blessing in the land. Let me bring this back to show the people. But if you're one of the other spies and you're afraid of the land, you're afraid of whether you're afraid of the physical need to go fight wars when you have the clouds of glory, or you're afraid of losing the control of the people when they'll be in their own farms and barns, however you want to explain it. But if you're afraid of the land, which they were, and you're afraid of entering, and now you see these massive grapes, these grapes confirm in your mind that this land is too scary for us. It's too physically powerful for us to conquer, and we'll be better off cocooned and sheltered in the clouds of glory. So Kalev saw in the beautiful grapes the beautiful land of Israel and opportunity, etc. And the other people, the other spies, they saw in these massive grapes danger. Same grapes. The spies in Kalev weren't looking at a different cluster of grapes. They're looking at the exact same thing. But they're seeing two completely opposite things. I mean, it's a very simple idea, but it's such a powerful idea. And this is true with everything we see. The idea of what's called confirmation bias, where we see what it is we want to see, is true in every area of our lives. It's true in every relationship. It's true in every friendship and every interaction and everything, right? If I think you're a nice person, even if then you go do something which is not so nice, I see it. They were tired, had a bad day. They were joking. It's a funny joke. And if I think you're a nunnik, then whatever you say, even if you're saying something nice, I see it as right. If I think you hate me and I think you want to get whatever you say is an attack. Whatever you say is I know people like this. They looked at me. They're for sure thinking about me. They just happen to be sitting in the same room as you. But because I see you as a threat, so confirmation bias, it's real. The other person is not delusional. I mean, he has a strong conviction of his own beliefs, but in his mind, it's real. And he has proof. The guy just looked at me and then whispered to the guy next to him. All right, look, she just said the most annoying thing. You know how annoying? She's such an annoying person because she just said it. Look, I have proof.
Are you pointing at me?
No. and it's true in the good also. It's just as true that when you like someone, right? Whatever, it's cute. So the point is that what we see in our lives, it's not about what we see. What we think we're experiencing is not what's happening. What we think we're experiencing, what we think is happening to us, is all about how we're choosing to see it. So if I think you're being mean to me or annoying to me, it's because I'm choosing to see you in that way. If I think you're being kind to me and caring to me, it's because I chose to see you that way. The exact same interaction will take place. The interaction is not changing. The words that came out of your mouth are not any different, but how I hear them is different. The same act, the same object, the same movement, whatever it is. Friendship is just an easy example of anything. We experience, is a great line, that life is 90% perception, 10% reality. That's very true. Whether or not you have a good life or a bad life, only 10% of that is objectively true. 90% of whatever you think is happening in your life is purely how you're choosing to see it. It's how we choose to see it. The facts don't change. The objects don't change. The words that came out of your mouth are not different. But how I heard those words, how I internalized that interaction, how I chose to think and feel about this thing that happened to me, it's all about how I chose to see it. That's the lesson of the fruit. The fruit of the land are the fruit of the land. To Kalev, they're beautiful. To the spies, those same fruit are dangerous. Danger signs. It's a very, very important idea. I'll give you, I have two examples. One is, I don't know if it's a true story or it's a joke, but they say about this company selling shoes. Decided to send two of their top salesmen to Africa. Africa's in the new continent, open up a new continent. So they sent two of their top salesmen to two different countries in Africa to go see the possibilities of opening up distribution centers and start selling shoes in these two countries in Africa. Both come to Africa, and in Africa, nobody wears shoes. So one comes back, and he says, this is a disaster. I'm coming back on the next flight home. There's nobody wearing shoes here. There's no market for shoes. There's nobody wears shoes. And the other salesman sends back a telegram, send me as many shoes as quick as you can. Nobody has shoes here. It's a wide open market. Same facts. The facts are the same. Nobody's wearing shoes. Does that become a danger sign? What am I doing selling shoes here? Nobody's wearing shoes. Or is this an opportunity? I see, right? The facts didn't change. How I chose to internalize and to translate and to process those facts, that's all in my mind. And we were having a conversation before the class started about, older people need to be a little more stubborn. The people that live happy lives and longer lives, it's not because they had better things happen to them during their life. It's not because their lives were objectively better than someone else's life. Just they chose to see their lives differently. They chose how to see it. So I have 5 minutes. I want to show you a very famous Talmudic story. It's a very, very famous story, but it literally fits this exact idea. Famous story is with Rabbi Akiva and some of his friends that were traveling. This is after the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, the second temple. I know the story. And it brings out this point so beautifully. I'll say it's the point of it. And they're traveling towards Jerusalem. And as they come to Mount Scopus, which is like a high ridge that oversees Jerusalem and the destruction of the ruins of what was once the holy Beit HaMikdash, the holy temple, and they see the ruins, etc., the other rabbis begin to cry, and Rabbi Akiva is laughing. They come closer, and they come to the actual place of the temple, and they see foxes coming out of the ruins of what had been the temple, and they see foxes roaming and coming out of that place, of the Holy of Holies. The other rabbis rip their garments in mourning, and they're crying. Rabbi Akiva is laughing. So they say, Akiva, why are you laughing? And he says, why are you crying? So why am I crying? Look, don't you see the destruction of the temple? Don't you see the foxes roaming on the holy place where even the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, could only go once a year on the holy day of Yom Kippur? Now foxes are roaming there. Of course, why are you laughing? And he says, because there's a famous prophecy that says that the land of Israel will be destroyed and plowed. And then there's another famous prophecy from Allah that says that that the children will still return over here, and the old men and women will sit in the streets, and the young children will dance and sing and be happy. So I wasn't sure, Rabbi Akiva, how fulfilled the prophecy would be. How great would be the rejoicing of the old men and the young children in the streets of Jerusalem when it's rebuilt. But now that I see how destroyed the destruction is, I see how intense the fulfillment of the negative prophecy is, I see how intense will the fulfillment of the positive prophecy be as well. It's a very powerful story, but this is exactly the message of these fruits. Every single experience we see, even things that we think look so obviously terrible, like the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, you can still choose how to see that. You have the ability to choose what are the glasses I'm going to wear, what is the language I'm going to use to translate these words, to translate and to internalize this experience. And we can choose to look like 10 of the spies did, which, by the way, is the easier default setting. It's the default setting of a human being to see the negative in the situation, which is why the majority of people see negative in situations. It's why the majority of the spies saw the negative, saw the danger in the big grapes and the great big fruit. And only the great people, only someone great like Kalev and Joshua, and they were both very great people in their own way. I've done class on both of them, and maybe we'll do another one next week on Kalev. But the great people were able to see not the danger, but the greater blessing behind the danger. It's easy to see the negative. The majority of rabbis saw the destruction of the temple, and they saw the destruction of the temple. The majority of the spies saw the big grapes, and they saw danger. It's a big land. It consumes its inhabitants. We can't survive. What makes a person live a long life, a happy life, the greatness is in the ability to see the same things, same facts, but to see a completely different message in the fruits. And that is the question we have to ask ourselves. Not only what am I looking at, but what am I looking through? How am I looking at it? Not what am I looking at, it's how am I looking at it? Am I looking at it with danger, with scare, with being afraid, with fear, with insecurity, like the other spies? Or am I looking at it with trust in God, with joy, with confidence? Because when you choose how to look at something, what you see will be totally different. Good night, my friends. Laila Tov, I hope you enjoyed. Bezrat Hashem. Thank you very much, Linda. Bezrat Hashem next week. Same time, same place. We'll do Racha, baby call it. Okay. Linda, thank you. Thank you, Marie. You can feel a person's energy or aura. To some extent, you could. That's Shavua Tov. Carmen, welcome from Texas. Good evening, Jessica. Thank you for joining us all the way from Bogota. I appreciate it. And good evening to Marie and Mario. Hello, Mario. How are you? Okay. If you're watching, say hi. I hope this audio was good. Good evening, Lori. Good evening, Joe. Shavua Tov. Okay. Yes, sir.
So if you wanted to share this class with someone, you have it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. This class is on my YouTube channel.
How do I get your YouTube channel?
You can search my name. It might be the easiest. Or you can get it. It's on the Chabad or Chabad Jewish Center. Because the YouTube channel is not my name. The YouTube channel is a Chabad. When we started like years ago, it was a Chabad whatever. So,
go to
but
our website, your website.
it's not on the website. It is on the website. If you go to the website, Adult Education, many of the older classes are there actually. Then you can just find the YouTube channel from there probably. Okay. Send it away. Send it away. You all welcome to share as much as you want. Laila Tov Andrea, Laila Tov Cheryl, Laila Tov Jessica. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you all. Next week, Thank you, Shira. I'm glad you enjoyed. Baruch Hashem. Greta, shikoach to you as well for blessings and for good things. Okay, Laila Tov, everybody.